little bit more sculpting on him. Some of the teeth didn't bump out too much. And one of the things that sometimes happens with the clay is that the enhancement you added on last time, as it dries, will kind of shrink back a little bit. So my eye accenting on this guy is not quite as strong as it was last time. But just going to paint those areas with a little bit of smoothing paste. I'm going to keep on enhancing some spots. And doing this gradual increase in layering also really helps in that you don't have to wait for a huge chunk of clay to dry out. These smaller sections dry faster. Of course, once you got done what you want to get done, all you want to do is make sure that the grooves that you had before are still in there. Occasionally, if you do these areas, you might hit a spot which you consider to be a little bit too hard with your smoothing brush, and it gets all super completely deformed. Don't be afraid to just pull that area of clay off. Go ahead and start over again on it. Usually the stuff will come fairly much right back into place without too much effort. So it's no great tragedy if you overcompensate on an area. There we go. This is just some pretty minor enhancement. A little bit over the eyes, 2 slots on the edges of the nose, a few teeth bumped up a bit, and the corners of the mouth in a couple of spots. And that's all I'm going to do to this guy. Just a little bit of mid-level stuff, and then we'll go ahead and we'll start painting him up. And we just learned to secure our cap. All right, after that fantabulous paint explosion, we need to talk about doing shading on the slightly more sculpted pumpkin. So what we've got here is a situation where I have already done all of the standard lines, and now we're looking for areas where our sculpt has actively generated shadow zones. So other spots that I'm going to want to dry brush is going to be anywhere that I want shadow highlighted on my sculpt face here. So for instance, I expect under the eyes here to be a rather heavily shadowed area in a spot where I've got something covering light sources. So I'm going to end up shadowing under here. Even though I don't have a line down by the side of the nose here, I do have a spot where I've got a concavity inside the model. So I am going to want to dry brush into here to generate some shadow in that area. And indeed, any areas where you have areas of concavity, that'll be the troughs in your hills and troughs, highs and lows spot, you're going to want to add just a little bit of decorative shadow. In this corner of the nose here, it's not technically a line, but it's a spot where I've got a high ridge here and a ridge here. So if I've got a low spot here, I should be hitting that with some dry brush shadow. And this is something you're going to want to probably do pretty much all over your face. If you've got areas where things should be shadowed, add the shadow to it. How do you know if it's shadow? If something comes out and over it or is really tall next to it, it should have some shadow added to it. I'm going to take a little bit of time and go ahead and do that to this face, and I'll try to highlight some of the spots where I've taken that extra effort. All right, so I've just gone over and done the extra spots. Those of you who are highly observant may notice there's a slightly brownish patina here. That's because I had a paint explosion that I don't know if I'm keeping on this thing, probably added to the gag reel, but that's why this area is slightly darker. I could take some white and go back over it, but I think that's just going to be too much effort for what I gained. But areas that I have hit with particular note are anywhere my teeth have pointed up. I like to put a little bit of a darkening in there. Around the entire eye, if I've got extra sculpting on here, I like to do it. That's 9/10 of it. If I've got a big smile on here, I'd like to accent the ridge behind the smile a bit. And as I mentioned, anywhere where the teeth come to a V, I like to just take a brush and whackety whackety whack that spot to generate a dark bridge there. But that's the spiel. Look for areas of concavity and hit them with a little bit of extra darkness just to highlight the fact that you've taken the time and effort to make this sculpt where you've got your high ridges and low ridges. So that is my word to the wise of doing the sculpt and the shading on it. I don't even want to shake this thing up. I'm terrified. I have PTSD, post-traumatic paint disorder. Is the cap on? Is the cap on securely? Did I pull the pin? Did I pull the pin?